Hi everybody, so we are doing day 2 for final exams. So let's get started on the first couple problems. Okay, so we've got this equation on number 1 and it says that the minimum point is 2, -4, which means that if I were to graph it, it'd be at 2, -4, right there. Now this right here means that the 5 is what's going to move it up and down. That's like our K. Remember HK? So the 5 is going to move it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is going to be the new minimum point? It's going to be 2 +1 F. Okay? All right. Now here on number 2, what we've got is this +2 here in parentheses means it's going to go 2 to the left. Okay, so right here is where it is. Look at this graph right here. I'll do it in blue. Right here. See where I am, you guys? I'm right over here. Lulu. Right here. Okay, so in blue, it's going to go 2 to the left, which means now it's going to be here. T. This graph is exactly it. Okay, good job. All right. Which equation represents something going 3 units to the left, 3 to the left, and 7 up, right? 3 to the left, 7 up. And here we go. The answer is U. All right. Number 4. When I say which one does not represent a function, this is linear, y = mx + b. This is quadratic. This is linear. We are not learning this. This is actually a circle, so right now that's not important, but E is the correct answer. All right, so on number 5, what we've got going on here is that we're going to have a graph that's going to be stretched, which means that it's going to get skinnier, and it's going to reflect it over the x-axis, which means it's going to be downward, which means that it's negative. So you need to go through and cross out things that are not negative. Okay, now our choice here, 0, has a -2, and remember how we would have the 2 and 3 and 4 means skinny, skinny, skinny. Well, O is the correct answer. And the reason that E is not the answer is because E, if I wrote it in like vertex form, would mean this: -1 times 2x. Remember this? So E is not going to be the proper choice. Okay, it's O. All right, we're not going to do number 6 because that's not going to be one that we're going to have to do on our quiz, so don't even worry about it. This F - 3 means, so now I'm on number 7. This X - 3, remember the sign is opposite. So it's going to go to the right. L is my correct answer. Okay. All right, we're going to skip number 8. We're not going to do number 8. On number 9, what this means is that f of x, so for x you're going to plug in a 2. K times 2 squared will have to equal 16. So k times 4 equals 16. What times 4 equals 16? What's k going to be? k is going to be 4. And k is the answer. Good job. All right, let's jump to number 10. On number 10, the domain is going to be the x values. Now, the reason I'm writing this so fat is because I want to know on the x-axis, where does it start and where does it stop? So it starts at -1 and it stops at 6, right? So my range is going to be that x is going to be in between -1 and 6. It's a solid line, so my choice is going to be n. All right, I'm going to try and erase. Don't know why I'm not able to erase that. Let's just do it in a different color. Now my 11, my range is always my y. So what is the top part that it tops out at? What is the bottom where it, oh, not even there. Sorry about that. It bottoms out right there. Okay, so that means, and let me try and erase that blue line then. Good, that works. Okay, that means that it's going to top out at 5 up there and -2 down here. So my number 11, -2 and 5, and it's a solid line, so it's going to be C. If it were dotted, then it would be E, but it's not dotted. All right, good. Number 12. What statement describes the graph y equals 6? Okay, well, y equals 6 looks like this. Straight line. Horizontal line. Well, CASE, case, passes through the point 6, 0. Does it go through 6, 0? Nope. Does it have a slope of 6? No, it has a 0 slope. Is it parallel to the x-axis? Yes, it's S. Good job. On number 13, let me try and erase some of this other stuff here. Looks like I need to be very careful when I erase. I can only erase immediately right after. So I'm going to draw number 13 right here. You know what I could do? Watch this. Whoa. Sorry, guys. A little crazy. All right. On number 13. All right, here's what I'm going to do for 13. On number 13, this is what the graph looks like. X squared plus 8. 8 is going to be my y-intercept. Sorry, guys. Okay. My equation's going to look like that. That's what my parabola is going to look like for this one. So it intersects the y-axis only. So the answer is y. Okay. Let's go to 14. On number 14, what this means is that if I plugged in a 4, if I plugged in a 4 for x, so here we go, 2 times 4 plus 3, and then I subtracted, see this subtraction sign right here? Minus, and then I plug in a -1 for this equation right here, x squared minus x squared. What you're going to get is you're going to get 10. The answer is I. All right, on number 15, what you're going to have is you're going to have this. If x squared minus 1, and then f of, remember how it's always f of x. So instead of x, you're going to plug in a minus b. Instead of x, you're going to plug in a minus b. A minus b instead of x, x squared minus 1. Okay, and what that turns out to be when you FOIL it and everything is r. It's not something that's going to be on the final, so please do not worry too much. All right, so what we're going to do is this -5 on number 16 is my y-intercept. That means that y is going to be greater than or equal to -5. Since that's my y-intercept, it's going to hit at 0, -5. So the answer is going to be G for number 16. And then finally for number 17, okay, here's where we're at, right? So this 2x is what I'm going to plug in for x. 3x plus 8, right? 6x plus 8. My answer is going to be V. All right, the very best thing to do for these problems is going to be to complete your table of values to the best of your ability. So what I have is, for number 1 and number 2, we're going to plug in the table of values. And just for time's sake, I'm going to go through it, how to do some shortcuts and show you like what the whole numbers are and what you would get once you filled in all the table of values. So on number 1, I would get the following things. All right. When I plugged in a -2 in for x squared, I would get a 9. I'd get a -3. I would get a -7. I would get, and then, you know, it's like a repeat, right? All right. My vertex number is going to be -b over 2a. Well, b is 0. Okay? 2 times a. My x value is going to be 0. Sorry, 0. Then, when I plug in 0 into the equation, look at my table of values. I get -7. The graph. All right, the graph says, oh, sorry. I was doing number 2. Ah! All right. So let me, it's going to be 0. All right, so it's going to be 0. When I plug it in, when I plug 0 in for x, I'm going to get y for 0 as well. This one, I was looking at the wrong problem. This one is 0, -7. Okay, let's go back to number 1. On number 1, it's going to have a negative, which means it opens down. That means that my graph is going to max out. Okay? It's going to max out because it opens downward. And it's going to max out as at y equals 0, which is also the x-axis, remember? Okay? So I'm going to get 0, 0. Plugging in -1 would get me, which would be -2 times 1, which is -2. That means that this one's going to be -2, right? And then when I plug in a -2, I'm going to get -2 times 4, which is -8. But again, these numbers are getting really big, and I'm already going to be off my chart. So here's some important ones to remember. All right, so I'm going to get -1, -2, 1, -2, 0, 0. Okay, so here's what my graph's going to look like. Downward parabola. Axis of symmetry. Right down the middle. Right? 0. Okay? Now on number 2, remember I started filling them out wrong, but here they are. 9, -3, -7. That's my vertex. They match up, right? -3 and 9. This graph has a positive 4. It's going to open upward. When graphs open upward, they have a min because they bottom out. And I actually have to erase that because I'm going to need this space. Sorry about that. Okay. You can always press pause if you need to see something or like look at it for a little bit of a longer time. And if I grab these points, my vertex is going to be 0, -7, which is down here. And then I'm going to have 1, -3, -1, -3. This is going to be super skinny as well. Okay? Axis of symmetry. Right down the middle. See it? Awesome. Let's get started on this one. All right, if you're given a fraction like 1/3, I highly recommend that you start putting in 3s. Okay? Just so you know, the vertex is going to be 0, 0. When you plug in 0, you get 0. But 3s are easier because, honestly, you need to pick numbers that will go into 1/3. Like 9, okay? So when I plug in a -3, I get -3. When I plug in a +3, I get also -3. They match up, right? When I plug in a 0, I get a 0. These 3 points are good enough. 0, 0. -3, -3. And then 3, 3. I don't even want to plug in for -2 or for -1 because they're going to be fraction answers, okay? And that's not fun at all. It's like when you plug in 1, you'd get 1/3. Sorry, you get -1/3, but again, it's like, it's really hard to graph that. It's going to open downward because it started with a -1/3. If it opens downward, that means it has a top value, which means it's a max. And the axis of symmetry is going to be right down the middle. Okay? X equals 0. All right, x squared plus 2. X squared is just going to be your standard graph, not too skinny, not too fat. But the plus 2 means this is my y-intercept. Okay? That's going to be my vertex, guys. 0, 2. And graphs that are not too skinny, not too fat are always, from the vertex, you would go 1 over and 1 up. Like 1 over and 1 up. So my graph is just going to look like that. 1, 3. This one matches up. It's also a 3. It opens upwards because it's a positive number leading the equation. It is a minimum because it bottoms out. See right here how it bottoms out? So it's going to be a minimum. It has a vertex, 0, 2. And the axis of symmetry is also right down the middle. X equals 0. Okay, what I did for these two is I pre-wrote them for you. And really, it's only because it's 9:40 at night and I still have like 3 more pages to go. So press pause right now. All right, so I did it again where I put all the info here already for you. And again, this is only due to time purposes. Okay, so go ahead, press pause now. Okay, one thing that I want you to remember is that when you have something in standard form, you need to be able to do negative b over 2a to find your vertex, right? So that's what I did to find my x, to find my vertex. And then I was able to plug in negative 3, negative 4 for all of these other values so that it would be easier for me to solve these problems. Okay, on number 7, what we're going to have is something I want you to notice. Look, guys, it matches up. Ah, quadratic. Look at this table. Look at how big it jumps, all the way from 9 to 28. That's only something that an exponential graph could do. So you're going to choose D for number 7. Again, you're welcome to press pause at any time if I'm going too fast or slow or anything. Okay? On number 8, you just kind of look at it and you see, well, does anything, like, what's happening here? How does 1 become a 1? How does 2 become a 4? How does 3 become a 9? How does 4 become a 16? Oh my gosh, I'm squaring everything. X is being squared. That's going to be B, quadratic. All right, here's what's happening for 11. Just get X alone. Solve for X, guys. So for number 11, let's pick a different color. I'm kind of over this blue thing. What's this color? No, I don't need that. Okay, here we go. Get excellent. This is not a trinomial. There is no x to the first power, so you're just going to get x squared alone on number 11. Subtract 3 both sides. 4x squared equals 100. Divide by 4. Get the x squared alone. Oh! Square root both sides. Okay. You're going to get 2 answers for everything here. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 25 is also negative 5. On number 12, your best bet for number 12 is to do something like completing the square. Do you want to see a completing the square problem? All right. Or you know what you could do? Do you want to do quadratic formula? Whatever you want, you guys. Why don't you just pick the one that you're better at? How about that? So, refresher. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of plus or minus the square root, of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right. Okay, here we go. So for number 12, I could do completing the square. I could do quadratic formula. Let's do quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 7 all over 2 times 1. Okay, here's what you end up getting. The 44 can break down. 4 times 11. 2 rad 11 all over 2. I'm going to do this in a different color to show you how they simplify, because they do. This 2 goes into this 2 goes into this 4. My final answer is negative 2 plus or minus rad 11. That's it. Okay? On number 13, get them all on one side. Add 5x. Add 1. Here's what I got. Plus 5x plus 1 equals 0. You're able to actually do your, you always got to try factoring it like this. Always, remember a's go up here. And what multiplies to make 4 and adds up to 5? 4 times 1. Don't forget, 4 over 4 is 1. X plus 1 and 4x plus 1. Set them both equal to 0. So x equals -1, x equals -1/4. Okay? All right. These ones are tricky, so I'm going to make sure to take care of these. I am going to want a height of 10 meters. First of all, read the question. I've already read it, and I already know what to do. But you need to make sure you know what to do. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to do... Sorry, I had to yawn. Okay. I want my height y to be 10. So here's what's going to happen. Okay? So I'm going to get the 10 over. And I'm going to write my trinomial. And now this is always going to be like equals 0. When I do the quadratic formula, let me erase this because now I need the space. Okay. Here's my quadratic formula. All right? So, here we go. So, quadratic formula looks like this. -6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times -0.8 times -10 all over 2 times 7. I'm sorry, 2 times 0.8. All right, you work it out, ends up being this. -6 plus or minus the square root of 4 all over -1.6. Well, the square root of 4 is 2. -6 plus 2 over -1.6 ends up being just a 5. And then -6, I'm sorry, this one is my positive 2.5, let me write this down, and then -6 minus 2 over -1.6 equals the positive 5. So you have to separate it. You have to do the plus version. Here's the plus version. And you have to do the minus version. Okay. All right, you have to, I'm sorry I'm making mistakes. I'm looking at the answer sheet and then I'm looking at the wrong problem, and so I got those two answers mixed up. So here's this and here's this. Okay? At what 2 times? Now we have to actually answer the question. We still haven't answered the question. So it's going to be at 2.5 seconds and then at 5 seconds. So let me do it in black over here. Remember, I'm throwing the ball up and then it's going to come back down again. So at 2.5 seconds, it's going to go up, hit its peak, but then as it heads back down, that's about 5 seconds that it's down. Okay? Let me set up the next one for you and just set it up. Sorry, I gotta get this uploaded on YouTube. It's already 10 o'clock. Okay, here we go. My equation is going to be exactly as you see it, all right? With the A equals -16, B equals 60, C equals 2. These numbers get crazy large, so here's what I'm just going to write what the equations look like for you. And I do my best not to make any mistakes on this one. All right, -16t squared plus 60t plus 2. When I plug it in, I get -60 plus or minus the square root of 60 squared minus 4 times -16 times -18. You're like, where'd the 18 come from? Well, I had to get the 20 over. So my C is going to be -18 because you had to bring the 20 over with the 2. Okay? So all over 2 times -16. I'm just making mistakes everywhere. I'm so sorry, guys. My two answers are 3.4 seconds and 0.3 seconds. 58 feet. I'm going to run into the same thing. The same thing where it's going to be 58 equals -16t squared plus 60t plus 2. Get the 58 over. A is going to be -16. B is going to be 60. And C is going to be -56. You know, because you minus 58 both sides. 2 minus 58, -56. When I plug it in, I get -60 plus or minus the square root of 60 squared minus 4 times -16 times -56 all over 2 times A. Now in the final exam, we're not using calculators, so you're not going to have these huge numbers where I'm going to make you multiply 56 times 16. But you need to know how to do it at least. Okay? The answers end up being 1.75 and 2 seconds. The ball is going to hit the ground, which means we're just going to set it equal to 0. Okay? A is -16, B is 60, C is 2. 3.7 seconds it'll take it to hit the ground. All right, and then for these last ones, what you have to do is you just have to solve for the variables. So it's either going to be by doing X method, or sometimes star, or completing the square, or quadratic formula. Okay? None of these are equal to 0, which is really nice. So you're just going to do your best to factor them the best that you can. Okay? All right. Let's get this uploaded. Have a happy, happy Monday night, you guys, and I will see you at your final exam. Tuesday or Thursday. All right, good night, guys.